Hola humans, welcome back to the third episode of Once Upon an Illustration. Today, I'm reading the story of Our Lady's Child. I hope you enjoy. Next to a huge forest lived a lumberjack and his wife. They had only one child, a girl about 3 years old. The couple was very poor. They could often not eat. And now, they're even having trouble feeding their daughter. One morning, the lumberjack went out into the forest to work. As he was walking deeper into the woods, he suddenly seen a tall, beautiful woman with a crown of stars on her head appear in front of him out of nowhere. She tells the woodsman that she is the Virgin Mary, mother of Jesus. Bring me your child. With me, she will have a good life and be taken care of. The lumberjack, with a heavy heart, brought his daughter to the woods and handed the child off to the Virgin Mary. They both went to heaven together. The child had a blast in heaven. She played with the little angels and ate cake, cookies, and milkshakes, all while sporting clothes made of gold. The girl was having the best time, but when she was about 14, the Virgin Mary came to her and told her that she's about to make a great journey and she'll be gone for a while. So, the Virgin Mary entrusts the girl with the keys to the 13 doors of heaven and tells her she can even go into the first 12 and behold the wonders within, if she would like. But the 13th must remain closed and is forbidden to enter, because the very act of opening it will bring misery and misfortune to whomever does so. The girl agrees to the terms, and the Virgin Mary leaves for her journey. The next day, the girl decides to explore the kingdom of heaven. Each day, she opened a new door, and in every door she opened, she witnessed one of the apostles of heaven bathed in golden light. The girl and the little angel she hung out with were in awe of each one's magnificent presence. But before they knew it, the 13th day came, and only the forbidden door was left to explore. The girl had a great desire to know what was hidden inside, and told all her angel friends that she knows that they can't go inside, but she's sure just a little peek through the crack of the door would be all right. But the angels heard about the misfortune that disobeying the Virgin Mary could bring, so they all disagree and advise her to leave the door alone. She agreed with her friends, but the deep desire to open the door did not leave her. The thought tormented her so much that she could not sleep. One night, when all the angels were resting, the girl thought it was the perfect time to go and check on the door. She's all alone, no one will see, so it practically didn't even happen, she thinks. So, she grabs the keys of heaven and sneaks out. When she gets to the door, she puts the key in the lock, turns it slowly and carefully. But when she heard the click of the lock opening, the door blows open, and an immaculate golden light bursts out. All the girl could do was just stand in awe, for in that room, the Trinity was sitting in fire and splendor. She stayed transfixed at this amazing sight, and in her trance, her finger passed the threshold of the door, directly touching this divine light, and her hand itself became golden. Suddenly, she snapped out of it and realized what she just did. So she pulls her hand back, closes the door with all her might, and runs away as fast as she can. The girl got to her house, heart beating in terror, shock, and awe of what she just did. but then noticed that the golden light clung to her hand, and no matter how much she rubbed or washed, it would not come off. Not long after that event, the Virgin Mary came back from her journey. She called the girl so she could get back the keys of heaven. The girl came and gave Mary back the keys, but during the transaction, Mary looked into the eyes of the girl and asked, "Did you open the 13th door?" The girl lies, and Mary comes in closer, putting a hand on the girl's heart. Now, staring deeply into her eyes, and says, "Are you sure?" The young lady lies once again. Mary pulls back, and while doing so, she notices the golden hand that the girl has been hiding until now. Now having proof that she did indeed sin, Mary decides to give her one last chance and asks once more. The girl keeps the same energy and pretends that she does not know what Mary's talking about. The Virgin Mary is mad now, telling the girl that disobeying her is one thing, but lying about it, on top of that, is just too much. You are no longer worthy of heaven. And with that last word, the girl passes out. When the girl woke up, she woke in a forest on earth. No longer being in heaven brought her to panic. In her shock, she tried to yell out, but no sound came from her mouth. She sprang to her feet and had an instinct to run. But wherever she ran, she was stopped by a thick wall of trees, bushes, and thorns. She was now imprisoned in a forest closed off to the world. She heads to the center of the prison and finds this hollowed out tree. This will be where she lives. Life in this enclosed forest was terrible for the young lady. And any time she thought back to her time in heaven, she just cried at the miserable life she has now. Roots and wild berries were her only food that she constantly had to search for. In autumn, she picked up all the fallen nuts and leaves and carried them into her tree. And those were her food for the winter. When the snow and ice came, she bundled up the leaves and hid beneath them so she would not freeze. Over time, her clothes began to rip, tear, and eventually fall off. Her days mainly consisted of sitting in front of her tree for years and years. She just foraged for food and water, sat, and felt miserable remembering her time in heaven. On one beautiful summer day, where the leaves were fresh, full, and green, there was a king hunting in the forest. Somehow the king got separated from his hunting party. Lost, riding through the forest, the king encounters a big wall of trees and greenery in his path. So, he hops off his horse, takes out his sword, and starts chopping away, cutting himself a path through the thick forest wall. When the king finally forced his way through, he seen a beautiful woman with long golden hair that reached her feet. He was frozen in place, surprised to see such a woman standing in the middle of a forest. The king started to ask the woman questions, but she could not reply. So finally, he asks if she will come with him back to his castle. She nods and follows him out of her prison. He helped her onto his horse, and off they were. When the woman and the king reached the castle, the king showered the lady with gifts. He gave her beautiful clothes and jewelry, fed her amazing meals, and gave her a wonderful room. And although she could not speak, she was so beautiful, charming, and kind that the king began to fall in love. And not long after, so did she. After some time, the queen had brought a little prince into the world. And not long after, the Virgin Mary appeared one night while she was alone in the room with her new son. Mary tells the queen that if you confess your sin and admit to your wrongdoing, in heaven I'll give your speech back. But if you lie, I'll take your child with me. But the queen told Mary that she never opened that door. So the Virgin Mary took the baby from her arms and disappeared in a flash of golden light. The next morning, when the baby was nowhere to be seen, people started to whisper, coming up with theories of what may have happened. Is the queen a witch? Did she kill the baby? Did she eat it? The queen, hearing all this, but literally can't protest because her voice is still lost. But the king won't listen to these rumors because he loves his wife so much. Some more time passes. She has another child, and the Virgin Mary returns in the same manner. She asks the same question as before, saying if she admits everything, she'll give her voice and her child back. But if she doesn't, she'll take the new one. The queen's will holds fast, and she lies for the 5th time. So Mary takes her new child, and poof, she's gone. And the queen is left babyless for the 2nd time. The next morning, when the 2nd baby went missing, the masses were so sure that the queen had used the baby in some type of ritual, they were calling her a witch out loud on the streets. Even the king's counselors believed it, telling the king she should be brought to justice. But the king didn't believe. He couldn't believe. He loved her so much. So if anyone came to him with rumors about his wife, he would threaten death on them if they spoke further. The next year, she birthed a little princess, and Mary showed up in her bedroom once again, and told the queen to follow her, then took her by the hand and brought her to heaven. She showed the queen her 2 children having fun, playing in the clouds. Mary asked, "Don't you miss your children? All you have to do is own up to the fact that you opened the door, and you get these beautiful children back." But the queen is stubborn and doesn't admit to anything. The Virgin Mary sighed in disappointment, takes the baby, and throws the queen back down to earth. The next morning, when a baby could not be found for the 3rd time, the rumors, accusation, and frustration all came rushing back to the kingdom's peoples. The king's counselors go back to and confront the king, backed up by all the people of the kingdom now being loud in their accusations and their calls for justice. The king could now do nothing about this matter, and the trial for the queen now had to be held. The queen, in the trial, could not explain herself, nor could she tell them where the kids were. In fact, she couldn't speak at all, so there was no way for her to defend herself. So, she was sentenced of being a witch and a man-eater, and condemned to be burnt alive. So the townspeople gathered the wood, the king's court built the pyre, and that night the queen was strapped to a big piece of wood, propped up on the pyre, and somebody came with a torch and touched it to the wood, and that shit went ablaze. The queen's pride melted away as soon as she felt the heat of the flames rising higher and higher. All she wished was that she could confess before she died, and at that moment her voice came back. She looked to the sky and apologized, and yelled her confession to the heavens. After she did this, the clouds parted above her. The golden light of heaven shone down and smothered all the flames. The townspeople look up in awe as the Virgin Mary and the 3 missing royal children descend from the sky. Mary takes the Queen and her children into the royal quarters and explains that the truth is all she ever wanted, and she gives the Queen voice and her children back to her permanently, also blessing the family with eternal happiness for the rest of their lives. The Queen, the King, and all the royal children lived happily ever after, and I'm sure none of them told a lie after that whole debacle. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed the story. I am Tredel, the Comic God, and I like, follow, subscribe, check out my Instagram or anything else. I have a bunch of fun stuff there. So, yeah, I hope you all have a great day. Alright, peace.